What happened? Well, 2 Voyager spacecraft were sent off to do what had never been done before: map the solar system.
Were both launched in 1977, and this was really the first chance for the world to see.
Voyager 2 has long drifted beyond the boundaries of our solar system, sailing silently through the interstellar medium like a ghost ship from Earth's distant past. For nearly half a century, it has transmitted whispers from the void, sending data that has deepened our understanding of the cosmos. Its mission, intended to end decades ago, has somehow endured the ravages of deep space, its systems weathered but still barely functioning. Then, against all odds and expectations, it happened. Voyager 2 sent back one final image. Not just any image, but one that would jolt the global scientific community into a stunned silence, causing a ripple of dread across a world that had grown complacent in its expectations of deep space. This wasn't a sunset on a distant planet, a dust storm over Neptune, or some frozen galactic debris. This was something else entirely. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The transmission arrived unexpectedly. There was no warning or scheduled data download. Instead, it broke through the static like a last breath, a sudden surge of activity from a spacecraft believed to be teetering on the brink of total silence. The Deep Space Network captured the stream just as it threatened to fade, catching the last fragments of light and data before they blinked out. What was received was not immediately clear. The raw data seemed corrupted at first, pixels warped, color bands distorted, structure indecipherable. But as engineers and astronomers worked around the clock to process and decode the image, the reality began to set in. This was no ordinary photo. As the image emerged from the noise, what stared back was profoundly unsettling. Voyager 2, drifting more than 12 billion miles from Earth, had captured a view that defied explanation. A vast structure, geometric and artificial in appearance, loomed in the distant black. It spanned across the captured frame with eerie precision. Clean lines, symmetrical protrusions, angles too perfect to be natural. It was not a trick of light, not a cosmic illusion born of shadows and random shapes. The object was real, and it was massive. By comparing the scale and trajectory of the image with Voyager 2's orientation, scientists estimated the structure to be hundreds, possibly thousands of kilometers in diameter. Floating silently in the interstellar medium, it had evaded detection by every telescope and probe until now. The implications were immediate. If this was artificial, then it had to be made by something or someone. The sheer scale suggested a level of engineering capability that dwarfed anything humanity had ever conceived. It was not a mere satellite or a drifting station. It wasn't debris, it was something intentionally placed, perhaps for observation, perhaps for communication, perhaps even for purposes utterly beyond our comprehension. The material analysis, though incomplete due to the limited sensor data, revealed strange reflections, irregular spectral absorption bands, and temperature readings that fluctuated in unnatural patterns. It did not behave like a rock or ice-covered object. It pulsed, faintly but rhythmically, as if it were alive or responding to Voyager 2's proximity. There was something else, something more troubling. When examined frame by frame, portions of the image seemed to shift subtly, even though Voyager 2 was stationary relative to the object when the image was taken. At first, scientists assumed these were compression artifacts or data losses due to signal degradation, but digital reconstruction showed otherwise. The structure appeared to move. Not a drift, not a rotation. It adjusted itself. One segment of the vast construct tilted, another extended a lattice-like appendage. In sequence, these movements suggested awareness. They occurred precisely at the time Voyager 2's signal would have reached it. The object reacted. The scientific community, normally cautious and methodical, found itself fractured. There were those who demanded immediate public disclosure and others who warned of global panic. Military analysts were drawn in, spooked by the potential implications. A structure of this scale could house immense technology, surveillance systems, weapons, transport mechanisms, but more than the technological concerns, it was the philosophical weight of the discovery that paralyzed many. Humanity had always gazed at the stars with a sense of isolated wonder. Now, that sense of solitude was shattered, not by a radio signal or a faint flicker of life on an exoplanet, but by a silent, watching construct in the void, awakened only when touched by our presence. Further analysis revealed a chilling detail. Embedded deep in the image metadata was a strange waveform. At first, it seemed like an anomaly, perhaps a glitch in Voyager 2's ancient hardware. But spectral analysis revealed that it was structured, repeating, and organized. A signal within a signal. Not meant for Earth, but perhaps sent in return, directed at the source of the camera that had captured the image. It was a low-frequency pulse, inaudible to human ears, but when translated into audible frequencies and played back, it triggered discomfort in listeners. Unease, nausea, fear, not from its volume, but from something deeper, something primal. The waveform didn't carry a voice, but it carried intention. It was not random. At Mission Control, where hardened professionals had spent careers listening to the hum of stars and the silence of planets, there was an unspoken consensus. Something had looked back. The silence of deep space had been disturbed, not by human folly, but by the fact that we had for a brief moment been noticed. Voyager 2, acting as our proxy in the endless dark, had pointed its dying eye at the wrong or right thing. The implications were more than technological. They were existential. Because if this construct existed, then the universe was not empty. And if it had reacted to us, then it was not indifferent. The image, now analyzed and reanalyzed by AI-assisted deep vision software, revealed other features. Small apertures on the structure's surface, arrays resembling antennae or sensors, movement along shadowed ridges, small flickering glints that seemed to shift position over time. The object wasn't just reacting to Voyager, it was studying it. Or us. The possibility emerged that this was not the first time the structure had been seen, but the first time it allowed itself to be seen. Perhaps it had been waiting, watching, silent until now. What sent waves of alarm through intelligence agencies and astrophysicists alike was the position of the object. Based on triangulation and Voyager 2's final telemetry data, the construct was not stationary. It was moving, not adrift but deliberate. Its course, though not directly aimed at our solar system, was no longer static. A trajectory had been calculated, one that implied it had shifted to align with Voyager's past path. Whether that path led back to Earth or was simply being traced remains a matter of debate. But the data was undeniable. The structure was no longer dormant. Inside observatories and government research facilities, conversations turned from curiosity to strategy. If this was a vessel, what was its purpose? If it was a beacon, who or what was it summoning? If it was a warning system, then what was it warning about? The terrifying notion emerged that Voyager 2 might have tripped an alarm, a kind of interstellar tripwire laid long before human civilization emerged. Perhaps we were not meant to reach this far. Perhaps some threshold had been crossed. But the most haunting question of all was simpler. Why now? Voyager 2 has been in interstellar space for years. Why did the structure choose this moment to respond? Was it simply proximity? Or was it waiting for a signal we unknowingly sent? A phrase, a code, a frequency embedded in our old spacecraft's heartbeat? Whatever the trigger, the result was clear. Something ancient and immense, far beyond human understanding, had stirred. In public, officials downplayed the discovery. The image was leaked, yes, but explanations were cloaked in vague language. An anomaly, a trick of deep space imaging, an unconfirmed artifact. But among those who had seen the raw data, who had run the simulations and tracked the trajectory, there was no doubt. This was not an illusion. It was real, and it was out there. Across the world, amateur astronomers and deep space tracking stations began their own searches, scouring the skies in the direction of the anomaly. But nothing was visible, not yet. Whatever the object was, it had vanished from visual range. Only Voyager 2 had caught the glimpse, and now its systems had gone silent. The probe, having delivered its final message, seemed to power down completely, as though its purpose had been fulfilled. This final image, blurry but deeply encoded with implications, has since become the most studied artifact in human history. Not for its beauty, not for its clarity, but for what it represented. A curtain had been pulled back, and behind it stood not chaos or randomness, but order, intentional, observing, structured, the kind of order that could only emerge from intelligence. Voyager 2, once thought to be humanity's last whisper into the universe, had in fact become our first conversation. And what it showed us was not comforting, not peaceful, and certainly not expected. It revealed that we were not alone, and perhaps never had been. It also revealed that our journey into the stars was not a one-way voyage of discovery, but an invitation for something else to notice us in return. Now, with the image preserved, enhanced, and studied frame by frame, humanity waits. The stars remain silent. No further signals have been received, but the silence no longer feels empty. It feels heavy. Heavy with the knowledge that something vast and ancient saw us reaching into the dark and responded. Whether it responds again and in what form remains unknown. But one thing is certain, Voyager 2 in its last act did not simply look outward. It revealed that the universe had been looking back all along. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Voyager 2's final image? What do you expect? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.